Today, what we're going to do, just for a little bit of fun, we're going to look at a couple of things that we can do in defense of the guillotine choke. Actually, the guillotine is one of those techniques which can really catch you off guard if you're not familiar with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as an opportunity to teach Mitch how to do a guillotine, and then we're going to look at some great defenses for it. Okay, so the guillotine essentially is this sort of thing. We're going to move back here. The guillotine can come from a stand-up position. I can be here, I can just be giving the guy curry, and then I snap his head down. Normally if I have this hand, I'd snap it to this side. Okay, but just for the sake of it, let me just turn around. So I can go there. So I'm in this position with a good collar tie, and what I can do is use that pull down and snap the guillotine on. So you see what's happened is I have my hand here. The grip is best like this, but if you can make it work any other way, I'll show you a couple of alternatives. So we're in this position, I'm in here, I snap down and I pull up till he taps. Okay, now that's a standard standing guillotine. Of course, there's guillotines on the ground as well. Okay, so I'll just get Mitch to practice that. So we're going to do it like I'm teaching Mitch so that you can practice it yourself. So we're here like this, and he snaps me down. Oh, he's got a good collar tie. I can't really move, and then he snaps my head down. Take it so that the same arm as the guillotine. So if you snap down with this one, snap it to that. Whoa! See how it cuts? Good. So you see, if we open up a little bit, you see what's happening here is Mitch's arm across his body shuts off the blood on one side, his arm shuts off the blood on the other side, and if he's a real bully, the arm goes up, so it's both a strangle and a choke. Like that, and then he just straightens his back, boom. So to make it work, what he's actually doing is he's hyperextending my neck, or flexing, like that, and he's cutting off all the blood and all the air through here, okay? You think about that, what is the reverse of that? If I wanted to create space, I need to open up. Okay, so a fundamental defense for it, if you ever think key things that you should do to start with. The first one is simply this. If we're there and he snaps down, I don't want to let my head, I don't want to let my head get snapped down. I don't want to look at the ground. It's a common error for when people come charging in with double legs, they're looking at the ground, and he just puts that pretty straight in the guillotine. Whoa! The other common error is when, let's look at this, see if I can make this go down a little bit without it falling over. Good, so we'll move back here. Another common error is when I do a single leg, normally the head, just bring this leg forward for the camera, normally the head would come to here. So I would come here, and there's the pull of the legs and the push of the head. But the mistake comes in, now go this leg, the mistake comes in when I grab the single leg and put my head here. So I'm giving him the guillotine. Okay, and all he does is pull up like that. So this guillotine is actually something which you see a lot. You see a lot in professional fighting, you see a lot in street scrapping as well. If my eyes go down, the opportunity for a guillotine is always there. So the same thing now can happen on the mat. If I end up here and I'm in the guard like this, what I can do is I can sit up like I'm going to do a sweep. And this is called a sit-up sweep, where I sit sweeping like that. So as I sit up like that, he kind of pushes me back and I wrap my arm. I'm going to clear his arms, sit up and do the bump sweep, but he pushes me back, so I'm going to fall back into the guillotine. See that? Join my hands together, keep my legs crossed, and pull it up like that. Okay? So we have to deal with that. So let's look at what we can do first of all in the standing guillotine. Okay, so let's first of all look at what I'm going to do as a fundamental to give myself a little bit of time in the situation. So one, if he has you in the guillotine, you've already screwed up completely. Okay, you shouldn't have let him get here. All right. So remember, the first thing I need to do is not let my eyes go to the ground so that he can get a handle on it. Sometimes I leave him jump up, but I want to keep my posture solid. Okay? But if he has me in the guillotine, here's what I need to do. I'm going to turn around so you can see. My head's on this side. He's trying to take my chin to my chest like that. So to stop that, what I'm going to do is this hand is going to come all the way over there as much as I can, and this hand is going to push on his leg. So now when he tries to put the pressure on, it's much harder. See that? And in the process, I'm moving around in a circle so I can take him to the ground. So remember, he snaps me down, puts it on. I'm going to come here and here. Now, the thing I need to remember is once I go to the ground, he needs to be parallel to make it work. So what I'm going to do is go to a 90 degrees. I want to get perpendicular. So I want my head here, and instead of staying straight to the head, I want to get my body 90 degrees across. Okay, so in this position, he snaps me down, he gets the guillotine, immediately pushing, climbing over, and I come to here. Now what I'm going to do, just move around, I'm going to come to the side and take him to the ground, like that. But let's just watch from the ground viewpoint now. So we're here. What I'm going to do is push over the back, take the leg, and finish in this position. Okay? So he still has the guillotine on. He still has a good chance of finishing it. All right? The first thing I need to do is once again to get my arm under. There. Reach for his armpit and grip. The next thing is I need to alleviate pressure off the choke. So you can do the armpit and the hand at the same time, and I pull that back. So now you can see my voice is even clearer because I've taken the pressure off my neck. Then the next thing is my shoulder. This shoulder, I'm going to dig from here into Mitch's neck. Okay, so I'm going to go like this and push my shoulder into his jaw and put lots of pressure on it. Okay, so he has the choke. I have my hand underneath. I'm going to turn my head away to alleviate pressure off the neck, and I'm going to pull my elbow down, so if Mitch tries to squeeze really tight, it's going to make it hard. The next thing I do is drop my shoulder to his chest and then put pressure on my shoulder again by tripoding up. Then I'm just going to, and he'll tap from it. So that's the first type of guillotine escape. Now, there's a couple of keys to it. If I'm in Mitch's guard, and he does the sit-up choke, sit up, he sits up to do the bump, and then bang, there. Can you do it the other hand? Just to get it. So he sits up, look, he has my neck, bang. Now he squeezes the legs, squeezes the neck, like that. The first thing I need to do is have my arm, once again, just like we were in the stand-up, I need to do the same thing on the mat. So when he reaches up and he gets the guillotine on, this hand goes behind. See, like that? And that helps to alleviate pressure for a start. Notice I take my head down and look in. And I get my hand on the choking arm. So I'm in this position. Okay? He can punch and do things like that, but the more pressure I put on his shoulder, the harder it is for him to get any punching out. So it's kind of like a safe position here. Now, sometimes what will happen
Can I just comment that there's a lot of pressure on my neck there. If you pushed harder, it would be very difficult to sustain.
And that's without even deliberately applying pressure. Later on, you'll see what happens. When I apply the pressure and his brains come running out of his ears, it's nothing personal. Okay, so sometimes what will happen is, this is really interesting. He'll put that guillotine on and fall straight to the mat. I can't get my hand under. So what do I do? Because I really need that hand under. So here's a good trick. I'm going to come up. And then watch what I do. I'm going to drop back, rock, and now I have my arm under. Okay, so once again, I don't have my arm under. He's closing with he's starting to put the choke on. Here's what I do. Tripod up. I go from tripod to Caesar, and I bring him with me. Boom. There. And now I have my arm under. Okay, now I can tripod again. And I start to push my shoulder into his neck and clear this. All right? Arm under the leg. My head's this side, but I need my body the other side. But he might be blocking me with that leg, so I can't get my body on that side. So what I do is I slide to this side first, then I immediately jump over like that, or in the guard, boom, my arm's not under, I sit up, he has a good choke on, boom, I sit up, bang, boom, like that. I'm going to pressure on the neck, clear this leg, come to here, and then jump to the other side. Okay, now I'm at 90 degrees, I'm perpendicular, still have my arm under his shoulder. I can either leave it there, alleviate, put pressure on my shoulder, into his jaw, until he lets go, and then wrist lock, armbar, anything you want, or even just Greystoke, bang, bang, like that. The whole key to it is the pressure on the jaw, and I'm being friendly, but you could imagine if someone was really seriously trying to hurt you, I would be, and I'm on a footpath outside a nightclub, I'd be picking up and dropping down their pressure like that, picking up, driving the head into the bitumen, and my shoulder pressure goes right on the jaw, tripod up, collapse the tripod and come there, and look, once I get this hand off, you're not going to let it go. Coming under, bang. Okay, so that's a very interesting way, and I'm not doing this for the grapplers of the world, they already know how to do it, but if you're a stand-up fighter and you don't know how to get out of a guillotine, you could be in trouble if you get caught. The simplest way, the simplest thing to remember is as he gets you in the guillotine, doesn't get, this arm comes all the way over down his back. If I can stop him from joining his legs behind, it saves a lot of hassle. So there, come into this situation. Here, I take this hand and alleviate the pressure. I can even put my chin into the jaw, the chin into his rib. Shoulder pressure, underneath, up, and pressure there, like that. Okay, so that's the first technique I wanted to show you today. If you've got any comments, leave them and I'll check them a little later. The second technique I want to show you is called Katagatame, or shoulder, one-arm shoulder choke. Now the reason, let's see a little closer so probably the noise isn't so bad. The reason I want to show you these two techniques is because lately some friends of mine competed in a BJJ contest and they got caught with what's now become known as the Buggy Choke. So look it up. This is quite an amazing thing. It's when you think you're in a fairly dominant position because you're on top in side control and they lock you up with this amazing entanglement of arms and legs, and it literally takes all your space away. But from my way of thinking, it's just a form of that guillotine choke. So in the way that you save yourself from the guillotine choke, you can do the same thing to survive the Buggy choke. All right, there's two parts to it. The second part, so to survive the Buggy choke, and for the karate guys who don't know what that is, don't worry, a lot of BJJ guys don't even know what it is because it's kind of new. But you need to know how to deal with it. So I'm just going to work a couple of things. For me, working survival in the Buggy choke is a combination of treating it like a guillotine choke and a Katagatame. Okay, now the Katagatame is an incredible finishing hold. Very strong, and you can hold it for a long time. Even if your technique isn't fine enough that you can actually make it get the tap, you can hold someone in that position for a long time. Okay, so I just want to show you now how that Katagatame works. So, the Katagatame essentially, just put your feet here. This is what it looks like, but imagine we're lying down. I want to capture his arm and his head between my arm and my head. See, like that? So that's essentially what it is. So there's a series of different ways, let's move back a little bit, that I can attempt to finish it. So lie down, put your head here. So I can be in this situation, lie down here, good, head here, and I can start to squeeze in and put pressure on. Now some guys are extremely good at taking that pressure. Okay, so the older I get, the more I realize that I need to use better and better leverage. So the first thing I do now, just turn around this way, put your head here, just for the sake of the camera. I'm just going to move that camera down a little bit. There. Okay, so we're in this position. I have my arm under Mitch's head. What I'm going to do is, well, as you know, a bent spine is a weak spine. If Mitch was to balance a lot of weight on his head, like one of those piano carriers, his spine would have to be straight. But if I bend Mitch's spine so his head is tilting so the ear comes towards the shoulder, then the amount of pressure you can take is much less. Okay? So what I want to do is, rather than do this Katagatame and try and squeeze the shoulder to his head, I'm going to use my spider fingers, and look, I want to try and get Mitch's ear towards his shoulder. Spider fingers, do whatever spider fingers do. Okay? And I'm going to reach under his armpit and use that as a hook. You feel the pressure there already? So I'm pushing my bicep into his neck. Now to finish the Katagatame, I need this arm on this side of my head. And this is where it becomes useful dealing with the Buggy, because the first part of the Buggy is that this arm comes over the head that way and he reaches up and grabs his leg. Okay? But we're not going to do that today. I just want you to watch the Katagatame. So I'm here, spider fingers across so his ear comes close to his shoulder, and get a strong grip under the armpit. Now already that's 5 times more uncomfortable than what it was when I was just resting on top. Okay, and watch what happens when I flex my bicep. It tends to move his head. And I want that pressure on his neck, so as I do this movement, I need to maintain flexion of the bicep. Then I'm going to push this hand across, and I'm going to push Mitch's bicep and shoulder into his neck now, like that. Okay? Then I'm going to keep tremendous bicep flexion as much as I can on his neck as I step my body across, and he'll start to tap there even before I finish the technique. Normally I'd be here and then I try to finish it, but I find with this one I get a tap even before my hands are connected, and rather than grip my hands, I simply push my hand into him like that. Horrible, isn't it? Yep. It's a really amazingly solid Katagatame. Alright? Now, in a future episode, perhaps next week or the week after, we'll look at how to deal with that buggy choke using these 2 principles plus a 3rd principle of hip control. So, if you've read the Budo Karate Mas Oyama, what I do in the Budo Karate of Mas Oyama, I talk about Sosai's experiences grappling. He was a judo 4th dan, trained at one of the top judo grappling schools in Tokyo. And in that, I talk about how the key to good stand-up fighting, what do you think one of the keys is?
Footwork.
Footwork. That's why I always say, Mike Tyson, if you're out there, you can't knock me out. You couldn't because you're 7,000 miles away. Lucky for me. But if he used his footwork, got on a plane, got off the plane and came and knocked on my door, I think his chances of knocking
Gone up enormously.
Gone up tremendously. Okay? So, footwork is key. Now, on the ground, you don't have footwork. What you have is hip movement. Hip movement. Okay? So, I'm going to show you a simple thing to help you understand that. But the buggy choke requires flexible hips and good hip movement. If I can shut down that hip movement, I shut down the buggy choke. Okay, but I'm just going to show you an interesting little exercise for people. If you're not used to grappling and you have to hold someone on the mat, spend some time playing with this principle and you'll understand. So, Mitch is on the mat, head here, legs here. And I want to hold Mitch down, okay? So essentially I have, if I don't count the legs, because the legs are attached to the hips, so I have 2 hips, okay? I have the 2 shoulders, and I have the head. Now, that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I can control one of those 5, so let's say I pin this arm. So now I have that arm pinned, which controls the shoulder. And I say to Mitch, try and get out of that. Try and get out. Boom. He gets out because, you see, the first thing that moved was what? His hips. The first thing that moved, get out of that. Look, hips move. That's the first thing. Okay? But his shoulder came up here. And his head turned here. And his legs moved there. So, if I go from controlling this 1 point on this side to controlling 2. Now he tries to get out. Boom. Good. He gets out because I had 2 out of 5 control. The 2 allowed him to broke my grip with his knee and I lost control. Okay? Let's see what happens now if I control 3. So I cross face with my arm. I get under the shoulder and I'm in this position. Now I say to Mitch, get out. See how much harder it is. So every time I increase, I make it harder. Now I pin, shoulder pressure, lock the shoulder up, and I say to Mitch, now get out. I still have 3 points control. Etc. Okay, so I could probably hold him down. The other thing is that when he does that, go again, he put his arm in front of my face, I just armbar. Boom. Okay, so there's that too, but we're not doing that yet. But watch what happens when I drive my knee into his hip this side, drive my elbow into his hip that side. So now I'm reducing his ability to move his hips, and I cross face there. Now when he tries to get out, go.
I got nothing.
He's got nothing. Even if I take my hand off his head, so I've got the hips pinned, go. A little bit more movement. Okay, so the more of those points I can pin, the better. Now when I'm just training in general, what I might do is actually just come here. I have 2 knees one side, 2 hands the other side, bend his head, and I control the hip with my knee on one side and my elbow on the other. So now when he moves, go. Takes a lot of work. Yeah. Compared to, go, he just walks out. Okay, so the more you can control the hips, the better it is. If I have my arms like this on the hips, and I have my hand on the head, and he starts to get out, as long as I can keep, he has to clear those pins first, then he can get out. If he doesn't clear the pins, he's not getting out. Okay, thanks, Mitch. So, with that in mind, if you get pinned on the ground, the worst thing you can do is just use strength to try and push their chest off. The first thing you want to keep in mind is to free the hips and free the head. And that will allow you to get out of the position. When it comes to the guillotine, as you saw, you've got to try and get perpendicular and push your shoulder in and alleviate the pressure on the neck. Then when you work on that Katagatame, that one arm in choke, remember if you can bend the head to the ear and put the pressure on, then you can make it work tremendously well. So there are a couple of techniques for you. How was that, Mitch? How did you find them?
I need a lot of practice.
Yeah, but
they're very effective. And the Von Flew one is so sneaky.
Yeah, because
it just, you know, you're using, the more effort I put into doing it, the easier it is for you maintaining that guillotine if I don't know what I'm doing and just try to keep it on no matter what, which becomes silly at some point. You got to abandon, right? That just makes it easier for you to do that choke. And then the other thing is the pressure, just on the neck, the way you put pressure on the neck, and even that one, I forgot what it was, where you put your jaw on the ribs.
Ah, yes.
Pressure in there. Yeah. This is all painful stuff, painful pressure.
Yeah, so that, if you ever get caught in a guillotine choke, remember that if you don't act quickly, it comes on fast. But if you're able to alleviate the pressure, change the angle, and put pressure back on their jaw, well, then you can get a surprise result. Okay?
And just knowing the fundamentals too, because the guillotine does that. So you say push the hips away, hand there, just those quick fundamentals of stability, grips, and balance.
Yes.
And the angles, perpendicular or parallel that you always teach, are very helpful. But to be able to do that against a non-compliant opponent on the spot is a whole nother level of training. Yeah,
I teach all that, but I give credit to, there's a very, very good competition coach, BJJ coach in America, in Maryland, near Washington, D.C., Lloyd Irvin, Professor Lloyd Irvin, and he teaches that mantra, which I teach the kids. When you hit the deck, you're either top, bottom, parallel, perpendicular, one of the 8 positions. Your job is to get your grip, stabilize your position, look for the submission. If there's no submission, further improve your grips, improve your stability, and keep looking for the submission. And that is a wonderful, wonderful mindset mantra to keep in mind when you start grappling. Because everyone rushes and loses their stability, loses their grip. So anyway, that was a nice short one today. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see a thing. But we'll just go up to the table and I can edit this out later. So thanks for coming along. We're just going to put that here. And Mitch will join me. I might be able to read a few things. Us. Yeah, I bet brings up a lot of fun memories, Frederick. You're being facetious, I know, because it's never fun for the person who's getting choked. Okay? Us, Mike? Oh, thanks. I'm glad you joined in. I didn't get a chance because the computer live stream didn't work, so we're doing it off the phone today. So I don't really, I'll just press that button. There it is. So press that, there we go. Horse Marco, thanks for that. Here we are, here's all the messages. Good. Stormy Western Australia, Daniel, thanks for coming along. Radek, good, in Chechen. So I'm heading to Poland in a few weeks, doing a Chechen, is it? I'm doing a seminar in Poland with the dojo there and Radek. Doug, good to see you, man. Paul Kniep aus Deutschland, good. Wie geht's, mein Freund? Gustav, namaste, thanks. Harry, good to see you. Gaza, all the way from Oxenford, that's miles away. That's like, I could run there in, how long would it take you to run to Oxenford, you reckon?
Oxenford from here?
Yeah.
Good half hour.
It will take me about 5 minutes, but that's Mitch for you. He's just a slow runner.
I am.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Us, Marco. Look, here we go. More. Us, Thailand. Us, Delta Neuf. Thanks for coming along, man. Daniel. Paul Knipe was very inspirable. Gary Huang. Us. Thank you. George. Thank you very much, Harry. Look, guys, thanks. Nice short one today. Hope you enjoyed that. Please, as Mas Oyama said, if you call yourself a martial artist, you cannot be ignorant of the fundamental skills of any other martial art. Javier, us, good to see you from Argentina. Okay, so even though we're karate fighters, Saul Sai said you need to know what's going on the ground so you can bring the fight back to your world, in other words, the stand-up skills. So if you can't get out of a guillotine, the only time that you'll bring anything is when you bring your consciousness back around about half an hour later after you've been choked out. So it's really important that you do work. It's really important that you do work those ground skills, okay? And once you develop a fundamental body of survival skills, remember, as Professor Lloyd Irvin says, when you hit the deck, you're either top, bottom, parallel, perpendicular in one of the 8 positions. Essentially speaking, all grappling can be broken down to one of the 8 positions or a variation of that. So it doesn't take much. You just develop your skills, build up a body of knowledge, and keep working towards it. Us. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you, Shannon.
Us. See you next week. Us.